Hi guys, so the piece of scholarship that I chose for this presentation is Children's Literature as a Springboard to Place-Based Embodied Learning. This piece was written by Linda Wasson-Elam. A little bit about her: she is a professor in the College of Education at the University of Saskatchewan in Canada. She focuses her teaching mainly on reading, children's literature, and cross-cultural literacy. As of today, she has 17 publications, most of which deal with children's literature. And this article was published in June of 2010 and can be found in the Journal of Environmental Education Research. So one of the sources used is Art Ecology and Art Education, locating art education in a critical place-based pedagogy. It is written by an author. Graham is their last name. And a quote from this that I really resonated with and I feel gives an overview of this presentation is: place-based education aims to strengthen children's connection to others, to their region, to the land, and to overcome the alienation and isolation that is often associated with modern society. I just feel like that gives a really good overview of what this presentation is going to be about. And so, leading into that, a little summary of the article. I'm going to read the abstract from it. So the abstract states, globalization makes living in the world more complex. Many children live as social cyborgs attached to the digital spaces of the virtual play worlds of television, video, and computer games, rather than connected to their own local places. The impact of this change may well be that children lack acquaintance with their local places and may never develop the ecological literacy or the positive attitudes toward place that is so crucial to its sustainability. This paper presents an autoethnographic study of a third grade class engaged in reading picture storybooks that featured place-based settings in partnership with embodied learning, textually and visually, through art, photography, poetry, story writing, and environmental journals of class field experiences along with their local river valley. Combining place-based education with social constructivist pedagogy fostered places for learning for children to create a knowing that they too can take action for places where they live throughout their lives. So what first drew me to this article was the emphasis of children and technology. In today's world, where technology plays such a key role in everyday life for pretty much everyone, especially the younger generation. Like, as a society as a whole, we are constantly immersed in our phones and on the internet, and I think it ultimately has a negative impact on place-based learning. Linda Wasson-Elam emphasizes that throughout her entire article. At the beginning of her observation in her third grade class, she found that these students had little to no knowledge of the importance of place in literature. They were so consumed in video games and technology that they hadn't really given reading, like close reading, much thought at all. She states that they discuss what video games they like to play, what TV shows they like to watch, situations like that. And as her observation continued throughout the year, and as the teacher began to teach the importance of place-based literature, the children were able to understand the importance of place and even apply it to their own lives. Linda Wasson-Elam, throughout the article, also draws upon illustrations and their connection to place-based studies. She talks about how in children's books, details in the illustrations and pictures can help the understanding of place and its importance. There's a quote in the article that states, literacy communication is facilitated by images of landscape. And I think this quote really portrays the importance of place and space, especially through children's books. Images of certain places and what makes up these places give students a mental picture of the importance of the place and why it was used in that piece of literature. The author even wrote an entire section of the article that's titled Pedagogy of Place. And in this section, it discusses the teachings of place-based learning as well as the response of third grade students. One quote I particularly liked was, When readers step out of an illustrated book and rethink what they know, they mentally cast themselves out of the text and re-enter their own world-making. It is here that they can learn from the text and visuals as they make connections to the landscapes of the story and to places in their own lives. I feel like this quote really captures how place can be interpreted and also expanded by the reader. I also loved the quote, "Place then became the construction of stories that the learners told themselves that arose from frameworks of place-based identity, ideology, narrative tradition, and imagination." I immediately highlighted this quote when I read it because I feel like it does a great job at highlighting why place plays such a key role in children's literature and what it's based on. The section pretty much as a whole, I feel like does a really nice job of showing the importance of place and how it's developed in order for the reader, the student, to get more out of the piece of literature that is used and be able to apply these place-based ideologies. The author also talks a lot about culture in this article. Let's see. Culture is another, like the use of culture that she uses is another reason why this article really stood out to me and is honestly one of the main reasons why I chose to use it for this presentation. I feel like it allows children to expand their knowledge of other cultural identities, which I find to be so important. It states here also in the article, not only can readers learn about other cultures, eras, and even their own lives from the text, but also can they sometimes become cognizant of the information that they are learning from it. And I just feel like that does such a great job at building up culture and showing how students can take information away from that and learn more about cultures. It might be their own or it might be different. And I feel like it really allows children to expand their knowledge of other cultural identities. And I find that to be really important at such a young age, that these children are reading these picture books that are place-based. She also talked about the vast cultural makeup of the school district that she observed in. So there were many students from African, Asian, Middle Eastern, and Eastern European families with so many different cultural heritages living in one location. The students were able to learn about their peers and even their own cultural background through the use of these place-based books, which I found to be so important. Another quote was, "Place becomes personal, for they turn to another and respond to the basic questions. Who are we? Where we came from? Where are we going?" So having that cultural background allows them to answer a lot of these questions, just the knowledge from it. And through the use of culture, these students are able to understand place as well as space and the people that make up these places of cultural significance in a deeper context. Relating to our class, I feel like this article can create many additional conversations for most of the books that we have read so far. The one that I chose to discuss on was Bayou Magic, but you can also do the cultural aspects of Africa from like Hannah Hibiscus or The Number One Car Spotter, as well as like Louisiana and African American culture and Bayou Magic and Ninth Ward. So for Bayou Magic, you have Mami Wata and how she traveled over from Africa to America with the slave ships, and just that culture plays such a key role in the upbringing of most Louisiana residents. And another example is the descriptive language used to describe the bayou. So I picked out one on page, 47. It says, "The landscape changes again with each step. The forest darkens, thickens. More and more grasses, endless towering trees, falling branches, cracked logs. Bear swats away willow branches drooping with shimmering green. Careful, water everywhere, says Bear. Fallen seeds leave decomposing. The marsh has become muddier, squishier, blackening my tennis shoes. We come to a wide stream. The shoreline is chocolate black with green slime. The water sluggish, as tangles of algae, duckweed, patches of floating moss. Bayous are stagnant or slow-moving streams. I remember from science class. Part of the disappearing wetlands, says Miss Avril. Erosion causes hurricanes to hit New Orleans harder. I feel like that does such a great job at describing the land and developing that sense of place. Another description is like the food that's used, which also plays into the cultural aspect. So I peek into the pot. The shrimp still have shells. The sausage is cut into quarter-sized rounds. Onions and rice float on top of the red broth. Every stew is different. On page 66, I feel like that also does a great job at drawing this picture of the culture and bringing it to the table for the place-based settings. I feel like the article really ties in to Bayou Magic specifically through the use of the cultural importance that is brought up in both Bayou Magic and the article. Overall, I feel like this article did a really good job at developing my own awareness of place-based studies and why they're so important to incorporate into teaching. It also helped me think more deeply about some of the books that we read, like Bayou Magic, and how descriptive language is used and the use of culture really pulls place-based studies together.